to the president yesterday. Is there any evidence, is there any reporting that shows the president of the United States actually did ask public health officials to, quote, slow down testing, as he put it in Tulsa?
It's not clear that he actually gave a direct order to do that, but we know that he has set this tone from the very beginning, that he's been nervous, that he knows that in his estimation that the more tests you get, therefore the more cases you'll find. And of course, let's take a half step back here and go that it was systematic, massive testing failures and shortfalls in the early days of this pandemic that really led to some of the death totals and a number of people that are sick that we've seen. That this was the country itself failed on testing and did not do nearly as well as some of the others. We keep pointing back to South Korea. South Korea and the United States had their first positive case on the same day. South Korea put in place a massive testing program and got the pandemic under control far more quickly. The United States, which still hasn't. We're seeing cases, of course, still rise in huge portions of the country right now. But remember, in those early days of the pandemic, when there was that cruise ship that was docked offshore in off of the coast of California, the president wasn't sure he wanted them to come dock. These were sick people, sick Americans, and yet he didn't want them to come dock because once they touched American soil, he therefore feared it would inflate the statistics, and the total number of cases would go up, and it would reflect badly on him. And that's where we are seeing right now, is that he's far more concerned about the messaging, about the appearances, his critics say, of the coronavirus and the failures of testing, that he's turning a blind eye to the actual problems that so much of this country is still having. We're seeing spikes, real surges in places like Arizona, but not just Arizona, Texas, Florida, California, others as well. And as much as the White House is trying to push that message of reopening, the country's going back to normal, you need to adapt to this, it is still, for a lot of people in a lot of places, a real crisis in their lives.
So let me take it a step further. I mean, what you have here on the two major components of helping this country through the pandemic, since we don't have a vaccine, since we started late, since the president ignored this from day one, saying it would fade away, it's just a few people coming from China, it would magically go away, since he didn't actually respond to this pandemic and take it seriously, compared to Joe Biden, who was writing in USA Today in January that this was coming, it was going to be epic, it was going to be bad, and we needed to prepare. Since this president didn't respond to this pandemic, and that is clearly logged in the history books for all Americans to see and hear and read for years to come, now you have a president who is actively working against the health of the American people in his words and in his actions. He won't wear a mask. He makes fun of people who wear masks. He makes sure his staff makes fun of people who wear masks. Masks can keep this virus from spreading. The president won't wear one and makes fun of people who wear them and actually sets an example that you actually should not wear a mask when it's the one thing that could actually keep this from spreading, because we are so unprepared for this. Same with testing. He keeps saying, oh, if we test more, we'll have more cases. Yes, idiot. We want to know where the virus is and where it isn't so we can protect people. Had we had testing in place, maybe at this point we'd be at mass testing. Maybe there'd be testing before people go into concerts and rallies so that we could make sure that these arenas and these public venues are safe, so that we could make sure this economy could reopen. So again and again and again, the president works against himself and the health of the American people and continues to botch this. That's what we're seeing happening. This is not me, having a slant on it. This is the reality. Look at the science. Talk to your doctor. Talk to scientists you trust and tell me that what I've said isn't exactly the case in terms of the example that he is setting as a leader to try and keep this country safe. And I'll say it applies to the example that he is setting around the world. Other countries are doing better on this. And there's a reason, because they're leading on this. Other countries are stepping up now and embarrassing us on this. We're number one in areas where we don't want to be with this virus. You know where else other countries are leading? On racial unrest. They are holding protests around the world about what happened here in America. And this president, once again, holds a blind eye to it all and makes it worse. At this point, We're looking for more from our leader, and it's not even about his campaign. It's about keeping the American people safe. Casey, anybody in Congress, any Republicans want to step up about anything that has happened in the past week? I'll add the Berman story to it. I'll add the coronavirus. I'll look at racial unrest. Any Republicans speaking out in any way?